On May 15th, we left the Big Apple and its 8+ million residents. We never would have guessed what was in its future. With 2,000 nautical miles behind us and 4,000 miles ahead of us, we headed into the wind and strong currents of the Hudson, barely making 5 knots in one section. This driving range cage was set up for a Tiger Woods golf challenge. These dramatic, steep cliffs along the west side of the lower Hudson are called the Palisades. This may have been a replica of Henry Hudson's ship used in the early 1600s in search of the Northwest Passage. Unlike Hudson, we were fortunate to have charts as we headed upriver. The United States Military Academy at West Point is to the port. The Hudson Valley is known for its wineries and very good restaurants, probably because it's home to the Culinary Institute of Arts in nearby Hyde Park. Mount St. Alphonsus was built in the early 1900s for the Redemptorist congregation and sits on 400 acres. Shad fishing is a popular sport on the Hudson. The beautiful Catskill Mountains are sometimes considered an extension of the Appalachian Mountains into upstate New York, although they are not geologically related. Historical Kingston, New York, my hometown, has dockage at their Hudson River Maritime Museum. Here you'll be in downtown Kingston and can walk to a few restaurants and shops. We left Kingston with some family members on board. Our next stop was Hoppanose Marina in Catskill. It's a popular place for sailors to step masts up or down. Your vessel's height will determine which canals you can cruise, because a couple of bridges have fairly low clearances. After saying our goodbyes, we headed to Albany. We anxiously headed to the Federal Lock in Troy. It's the first lock when traveling northbound on the Hudson and marks the end of federal waters. This lock once stood as lock number 1 of the Erie Canal, but it was later transferred to the federal government. Evan and I struggled to work the lines on this first lock, but we managed to get us through. Fortunately, our skills improved quickly. Those fenders definitely could have been put to better use. Once through the lock, it's another 3 miles before reaching the Erie and Champlain Canal Junction at Waterford. America's Great Loop Cruisers Association is an excellent source for information on bridge clearances. We chose the Erie and Oswego Canal route, which, including the federal lock, makes 32 locks altogether. We docked at the Waterford Visitor Center for the night in front of Lock E2 and watched 3 boats lock through. The valve was stuck on the lock, and the lockmaster had to refill it again before letting the boats through. Fortunately, it's quite rare for a lock to have to be refilled. In case you're wondering, this shot is being played back in double speed. The next day, May 22nd, we locked through 6 locks in the rain. The boys became star line handlers. During lunch, they looked for pennies they'd left on the tracks for a train to crush. The Erie Canal was the first transportation system between New York City and the Great Lakes that did not require portage. It was faster than carts pulled by draft animals and cut transportation costs by about 95%. It opened regions farther west to settlement and helped New York City become the chief U.S. port. Lock 17 at Little Falls, with its 150-ton door hoisted overhead, looks like a guillotine. It feels a little dark and spooky in this lock. Lock 17 replaced 4 locks on the enlarged Erie Canal in 1916. It was the world's highest single lift lock at the time, raising boats over 40 feet. While waiting to lock through, the boys would do homework or read. Max read the entire Hardy Boy collection during the Great Loop. Here, we're leaving Sylvan Beach, which is a nice stop. They have shops, restaurants, and even an amusement park. Sylvan Beach sits on the east side of Lake Oneida. At approximately 80 square miles, this is the largest lake within New York State. After crossing Oneida, we went through several other locks before turning north onto the Oswego Canal. Opened in 1828, the Oswego Canal is 24 miles long and connects the Erie Canal to Lake Ontario at Oswego. This was another successful canal, but unfortunately would be too small for the 20th century tugboats and barges. Unfortunately, you can see that commerce in parts of upstate New York have seen better economic times. After locking through more than 30 locks in less than 1 week, we were somewhat relieved to make it to Oswego, especially under clear skies.